the opportunity to speak to you. As has been said, my name is Macharia. I am a 4-time Macharia champion, and I'm also a Jersey Rumble champion, Worlds DCA, PAUDCCA, and many other things. I was told to come and speak to you today about pathways to judging WSDC and how you go about, like, how do you grow yourself into being an adjudicator who can adjudicate at the level of WSDC. So that's what really we're going to be talking about. I'm going to speak for like maybe 15-20 minutes, and then I'm going to allow you to ask questions, because today is not a training about like judging principles and how to go about like the technical side. Today is about how to navigate the whole landscape of debate and how do you grow yourself into being a global adjudicator who can adjudicate global competitions such as WSDC. So I'm going to be talking about my journey, and then I'm going to be telling you how you can apply some of these principles into your own journey and how you can be able to use that template to grow into being a global adjudicator. So my story for when it comes to adjudication started in the 2018. I used to be a debater. I was a full-time speaker. And what ended up happening is that I really grew my speaking CV, which culminated at PANS at the PAUDC Championships in Ghana in 2019, where I was runners up. And after I achieved that, I remember asking myself, what next? Because we had been trained to be career speakers. We had been trained to think as speakers. We had done literally everything there was to do as a speaker. We had done all tournaments. We had literally been in almost every final. And at that point, obviously, the next bit was speak more. And I remember at that point, speaking was not bringing much joy, just 2019. And it coincided interestingly. And I remember one of my last speaking engagements before I decided to make a shift was at Olympia in 2020 before COVID, when we came and I was speaking with Mohan. I remember, or was it Jabez? I was speaking with Jabez and we got to finals, and I think we were second. We lost again on a 4-3 split. And I remember after losing that, I didn't feel anything. And then I realized I had actually lost a lot of love for speaking. And I was literally on the verge of retirement. And I remember COVID hit in March. Olympia was in February and COVID hit in March. And people went on to lockdown. And that's when the whole craze about WhatsApp tournaments started. We used to do tournaments like every day on WhatsApp. You know, those tournaments you used to send voice to, you kids are too young, you wouldn't know. So we did a lot of WhatsApp tournaments, and I remember they were a bit fun for a while. But what happened at that point is that global debating became extremely accessible because everything was now happening online. And so after a bit of WhatsApp debate, we started signing up for international tournaments as speakers, right? As speakers. And we would debate in Australia, we would debate in Europe, we would debate all around. And that journey then led us into adjudication. Because remember, it was a group of us. We used to call ourselves UNISA. It's some of the people who are now top judges on the continent. Because UNISA used to be people like Andrew Sterku, Nolutando Honono, myself, Mason, Maria. I don't think you remember Maria, McKelv, Ayafa. All these people you're seeing today, they were all members of UNISA. We used to be 12 As there. We were 12 of us. And I remember after speaking for like a few tournaments, we were like, why don't we try this adjudication thing? And I remember I decided, why not try this? Because I had CA'd a couple of tournaments, but you know, in Africa, people give you CA positions based on your speaking CV. But out there, nobody gives you any adjudication core position based on how you spoke, it's rather on your judging CV. So I remember I hadn't really judged much. I had CA'd a few tournaments, majors actually. I had CA'd EAUDC, I had CA'd Kenyan comps, but I didn't really have judge experience. I didn't know how to give an O. I was moving on the cloud of my speaking CV. Those are how those positions came to me. And I remember when we decided to make the shift into judging, it became a whole new experience. It was as if you were starting from the ground up. And we went and we started judging in weird time zones, Australia. We would judge tournaments at 1 a.m., from 1 a.m. till 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning, and then sleep during the day and then judge. So we started doing that every weekend. And on my first ever tournament, I remember I did quite okay because I remember I judged and I ended up chairing the final. I remember it was like Victoria Open or Victoria IV. It was by University of Victoria in Australia. And my first ever judging experience, I wasn't even being paid much. And I remember I chaired the final. And that was a really good experience. It's like, oh, let me try this again. And then I went to another Australian competition the following weekend. I judged again and I chaired the final. And I was like, let me try in Europe. And Europe was a lot more competitive those days. And I remember my first judging experience, I was paneling. In round 3, I remember I paneled for Jason Shao, who at that point was the world champion. I remember he had just won Thailand. And Jason was my chair, and I remember I was paneling him, and after a discussion, I remember just like, wow, thank you so much. And the next round I was chairing, and the CA was my panelist, because apparently I came to learn later. This CA, Jason went to tell the CA, there's this amazing panelist I had. This is one of the best judges ever. And then that CA came to observe, and we paneled around together. This was around 5 now, because I remember I had paneled around 1, 2, 3. Jason chaired me in round 4. And then round 5, the CA comes and I was chairing. And we had a great discussion. And this guy was like, wow, okay. And they broke me and I went all the way to the final. So that opened up my CV and opened me up to the whole space of international debating. And I started mostly with BP. So now I started getting invited to university comps to judge. So now these people started knowing who I was. And it went on for a couple of months. Before then, I started becoming a mainstream name in BP debating and university debating, which then meant that they would call me now even to WSDC debating. And next thing I know, I'm now, because the principles are ideally the same, I started judging a lot of WSDC. My point is, before the end of 2021, I had literally, I was judging 2 comps a weekend, every week, all the way from 2020 almost to 2021. I did almost, honestly, there were like 80 something weeks of just judging. You're judging WSDC, you're judging BP. I even judged these American formats. I judged APDA, I judged Lincoln Douglas, I judged Paglit Forum, I judged Congress, I judged public speaking. Literally, I was judging so much for almost 2 years straight, back to back to back to back to back. And that was the entry point for me into WSDC judging. By 2021, I remember I was being invited now by CAs to judge comps. I never used to apply for anything. Now at that point, it was they used to call you, and that process then led to almost like a very an obsession with adjudication. That even by the time WSDC was now happening, I remember by the first time I was judging WSDC, I had so much judging experience. And remember, I started judging in 2020. I wasn't judging before that. So in this short space of time, because of judging like almost 2-3 comps per weekend, sometimes you end up with almost like you've judged so much. At that point, it's like becoming a refined skill. What am I trying to tell you with my story? I'm not telling you so that you know my story. That's not the point. The point is, the pathway to global adjudication and the pathway to becoming a globally renowned adjudicator is an obsession with the sport of debate and an obsession with adjudication. You cannot judge like, when you want, when you feel, you attend the tournaments you want, you just do things the way you want, and then somehow you expect you will end up at a PAN's DCA slot or you'll get a world's IA slot or anything like that. You have to be obsessed. You have to give. I like to say you must pay your taxes to the debate as an institution, and those taxes look like a good amount of free labor, and then a good amount of low paid labor, and then a good amount of just battling in the trenches before one day somebody gets the opportunity to meet you. And for me, it was, I think, Jason Shaw and Lovro. Those guys, I met them one tournament, my first ever European tournament. And because I was ready, because I had been training for a long time, I've been debating for so long, I understand debate very well. I paid my speaking taxes. Even as an adjudicator, I'm transitioning from speaking to adjudication is not hard because I've done enough work in this sport to understand how it works. When that moment came, I was ready for it. Most of you young people, you want to attend a tournament, and if they're not paying you $100, you say, I'm not coming. Or if they're not paying you $50, if you're not being paid, you don't want to show up. Or you want to only show up for the tournaments in your local neighborhood. You don't want to judge the online Discord competition in a funny European country. Let me tell you something. In this world and in the way things work today, the only way you can be able to make it is if you pay your taxes. And because this is a young cohort of adjudicators, I'm here to actually burst your bubble that somehow you'll end up a successful adjudicator by doing things at your own pace with your own demands. That's not how anything works. You have to pay your taxes, and it means a good amount of free labor, a good amount of low paid labor, and a good amount of sacrifice. If you don't do it, you can forget ever being great. Anyway, that's the general principle. Now let's talk about WSDC specifically. How do you end up? I've judged WSDC 3 times and I've been in the finals panel all 3 times. So I am speaking from a place of knowledge. WSDC is a very insular community. You know what insular means? Who knows what insular means? And I'm not talking about WSDC Uganda. Those, like, please be delivered. We're not talking about your country. Here we're talking about like global WSDC debating. Global WSDC debating is a very insular community. It's a small, tight-knit community of people who know each other and they share feedback. The only way you can succeed in that space is if you do a couple of things right, which is why I'm here to discuss what I'm here to discuss with you today. The first thing you must understand is that if you want to be a global adjudicator in WSDC, discipline is your best defense. So you can write that down. Discipline, after you've paid your taxes. I didn't, it's something. Wait, there's a chat going on. Let me see. I'm seeing some chats here. Let me see what's going on here. Oh, people are just laughing. And then someone is saying, oh, Philo does not understand, still not understanding the word insular. Insular. The word is insular. Insular means like a tight knit, closed group. It's like a cartel, a cabal. It's not like it operates in the shadows. It's not open to everyone. They try and keep it very closed in terms of how things work. I hope you've understood what I'm saying. I was telling you, after you've obviously you've paid your taxes, there are a couple of things you must do in order to survive in that community. Number one, discipline is your number one defense. Because WSDC is mostly around children, you must have what is called a stainless record. Now, it's good I'm speaking to Ugandans because if there's a group of people that is known for scandal, it is Ugandans. If if there's a place in this Africa where judging scandals are a mainstay, it is in Uganda. And you must protect yourself from those type of things. Scandals look like a couple of things. One, adjudication biases. You know, if you've ever been compromised in terms of someone pays you so that you give someone a win. You know, I interact with Ugandan patrons. So you people, you can't even hide. Like, I know you very well. If there is something I've realized with Ugandans is mistrust. Every time even Ugandan patrons come to Kenya, they always believe that somehow a school has paid and the organizers are working a system to ensure that that school that paid won. And I was like, how is this even normal? We don't do this here. But they are always convinced somebody has paid someone. And I'm guessing it's a trauma response from things that happen in Uganda. So you must actually literally maintain a spotless integrity record, whether as a convener or as a judge or as a what. You can never be associated with integrity scandals. The minute you are, you're cancelled from the global. Because, anyway, I'll get there later. The other way you protect your integrity is issues to do with child protection. Now, if there's also a place that is known for scandal, it's Uganda. When coaches are dating their students, students are dating their coaches, somehow all of you fall in love with each other. Me, I don't know what happens in Uganda. Honestly, it's like a spirit. You people, like, I'm not talking to you. I'm speaking to you so that you don't become that thing. Like, you must honestly protect your integrity. The minute you're known to be a risk to children, you will not. And that happens a lot when the global community hears about these things. What ends up happening is that they form a defensive position that people from this place tend to be like this, and this is wrong. So the first way to be the only way you can be a global deep judge is, first of all, your integrity must be spotless, regardless of whether it's financial or in terms of relationships, in terms of what. Please maintain a spotless record. I'm speaking to the men in this room, especially men. Guys, it doesn't matter whether she finished high school and is now in university. It doesn't matter that, maybe it was after they finished. It doesn't matter. As long as this person was a student under you, you cannot date them. You cannot even like them. You cannot even have remote, tiny feelings for them. And because you're young, I'm going to tell you this. Please stay away from your students. They are your friends at best. If you ever want to leave the hood, you want to live and judge in other places on merit, not on nepotism, your record must be sparkling clean. Sparkling clean. The minute you are known or associated with any form of impropriety, you will not be. I know how many people have even applied for positions like DCA positions. And they call us when they're looking for DCAs for world spans, they call and they're like, okay, what do we know about this person? And if the feedback, we're not going to lie to them. We're going to tell them, this one we know him. He had a case. This is the case. Now make the decision with this information. That will be the end. And you only need one person to say this person is like this. That's it. That's the end of your judging career. So, number one, maintain a spotless integrity record. Number two, global debating, as I said, in WSDC is a very insular community. So you need to go to the right places and you need to know the right people. I advise that when you go and judge WSDC competitions, you judge WSDC competitions that have national teams or have national teams present. There's this thing that is usually available publicly, like the global debating spreadsheet. Look around it and don't just go and judge tournaments. In fact, offer to judge for free. Go and establish yourself among established WSDC. Because what tends to happen is in this tournament, when you're judging teams and the coaches are watching, if your feedback is good, they give feedback to other coaches and say, oh, this was a good judge. This was a good judge. And I told you it's an insular community. So word of mouth is your friend. Word of mouth is your friend. So if you're in the wrong spaces, let's say the only tournaments you judge are Africa WSDC, or you just judge funny tournaments, you're never gonna be recognized. Get out of the hood. Go and open that global debating spreadsheet. Go to the school section. Find out. Kwanza, right now it's WSDC season. National teams are prepping for World. So there's like a prep comp every week. Sign up to judge all of those for free. And don't, and I'll come to that. And do it well. Like, exert yourself. Build the capacity. Learn from the good judges. By the time you've done this for a while, you then start noticing you get trusted with a lot more responsibility. And when that starts happening, you can then start commanding more opportunities for yourself in the WSDC space. Because as I've told you, this is a very insular community that word of mouth is your only best friend. So you have to develop a good reputation with the people that matter, which is a reputation of integrity. Now, when I say do this, I don't mean that every time you're judging around and you think there's a bigger team, you make bad decisions so that the team that you want to win wins, and then you think that this team is bigger than the other, so you are trying to get favor with them. No, don't do that. In fact, the more integrity you have, the more likely you are to rise higher. So please get to the right spaces. That's number two. Judge the right tournaments, go to the right spaces. This is WSDC season. Make sure you are in every prep comp, if not as many as you can, between now and July, because there are so many opportunities currently. That's number two. Number three, Your integrity is also important in the global space in terms of avoid any opportunities that might malign your name. Now, you must give yourself, because remember, there are a lot of factors working against you. You're African, to make it worse, Ugandan. You have all these stereotypes around you. My quick question here is, don't ever create a scandal around yourself with impropriety. And most of the time, what Africans tend to suffer from is this thing of double judging. You want to be a global judge? Hey, just double judging you can never be associated with it. I can give you a story of one of the best African judges, very good judge. One tournament I remember, and I'll never forget. I won't even tell you who it is, but it's someone very famous. You know that. They were judging a comp for WSDC that was in one time zone. And then they were going to speak at another tournament. I'll tell you what double judging is. They were going to speak at another tournament in North America, which is a different time zone. So we're judging in Asia, and then they were going to speak in North America. But because the time zones are different, they thought it was okay because they'll judge, and you, based on the schedule that had been provided, the tournament that they were judging was supposed to end before the tournament that they were speaking. So they were just supposed to finish judging, shower, then go and speak. Unfortunately for them, this tournament delayed. And so what they did, because they didn't want to disappoint anyone, they told a friend of theirs, can you judge for me this tournament I'm judging? I go speak round one, and this is a tournament because this tournament has delayed. Now, this person they brought to judge for them was a good judge, but it was not them. But they told them that you judge under my name. So just say you're my name, and then I'll just put it on your Zoom. You don't have to put on your camera. Nobody will know. And do you know what happened? They were caught. That other person was caught because somebody somewhere noticed this person is speaking in this tournament. When the tab was released at the other tournament, they are saying you're speaking currently, but also this other tab where you're judging is saying you're judging currently. You can't be in two places at once. For that person asking what double judging is, it's when you take up multiple opportunities that are happening at the same time and you try and either juggle all of them, or you try and get friends to help you with these opportunities. Do you know this person, despite being one of the best judges in the continent, was cancelled like that? They tried to apply for Worlds, they tried to apply for PANs, they tried to apply for WSDC, and they kept getting rejections after rejections because they were caught once. Now, there are other people as well. I can give you stories. I don't want to mention names. Or people who are caught double judging where they would sign up for multiple opportunities and then get their friends to go judge for them, and then they judge one. So in a weekend, they do more tournaments. And you know why they do it? Because they're getting paid in each of these opportunities. So they just agree, I'll give you a cut. If I'm being paid $80 for this tournament, I'll give you $40. I'll keep 40. Then even you in this opportunity, I'll give you $50. And then, it's you are judging with, because these other people are judging on your CV because your CV can get you these opportunities. Do you know that's how about, I think I can count like 4 or 5 top. These are top judges. I'm not even talking about the medium ones. I'm talking about people who are like top judges on the continent. Never got an opportunity to judge at any major competition because their integrity was questioned, because the double judging scandals were on them. Once you get that tag of bad integrity or poor behavior, you're out. You will never see WSDC ever. All right. So that is what I was saying. Number 2, please make sure that you don't double judge and you're in the right spaces. The other thing you must do in order to be globally recognized in WSDC is you must judge in I told you judge the right tournaments. Actually, that was number 2. Judge the right tournaments. Number 1 was ensure that your integrity is spotless. Number 3, don't double judge. Number 4, and this is probably among the last things I'll say with regards to this thing, is you need to build the right networks. When most of you go for tournaments, when you panel a judge, do you try and get to know who they are? Do you chat with them after the round? Do you build the right networks? I've told you, it's an insular system. It's a very, very close-knit community. Sometimes it's really about who you know. I know how many opportunities I've gotten because I was friends with someone. Not to say that I don't deserve it, but because they like you. So then they'll give it to you. Don't underestimate the power of networking. So ask yourself, in Uganda, who usually is the CEO of most tournaments? Make sure that person is your friend in a nice way, not like that you go and start, doing bad things so that they become your friend. No, do the right thing. Build the right networks. In East Africa, who must I know in terms of growing? In Africa, who are the right people? Build the right networks. If you have the right networks behind you, most of the time, because you know how many times we are told, recommend someone, recommend someone, recommend someone. And sometimes we run out of people we can recommend. Point is, just be in the right spaces and build the right networks around debate so that you can be able to be recommended for these opportunities. And the next thing you know is that you're growing. So the pathway to becoming a WSDC adjudicator is mostly focused on one, paying your taxes, two, protecting your integrity, three, ensuring you have built the right network, and four, avoiding any form of scandal. Now, the most important of these is the integrity one, and the second most important is judging the right tournaments. Offer to judge for free, build your CV first, and then start charging them for it. Right now, debate is global and it's online. So you can be able to access these opportunities without any questions. I've judged WSDC, as I've said, 3 4 times, and I've actually done well at all of them. I now do mostly coaching and team managing, but I can still tell you the stories because I'm at every WSTC. I know how things work. This is a very close knit community. To penetrate into it, especially as an African, requires a spotless record, very high skill, very high skill. They'll judge you harsher than they judge their white counterparts. If you give a bad OA, you are judged more harshly. If you make a mistake, you'll be judged more harshly. So you need to ensure that you are spotless in your integrity, but also skill levels are very high because that's the only way you'll be able to survive in this space. That covers the main part of what I wanted to say. The second part is mostly around WSDC 2026. So you all know Africa is hosting WSDC next year. If you want to be a judge at that tournament, you can only come as an IA. Only way you can make it as an IA because it's a limited budget is if your CV is impeccable. So you have 1 year to build a strong CV. Build your speaking CV as well as your judging CV. So what am I trying to say? Most of you become very one-legged people in the sense that you either build a very strong speaking CV with no judging CV or a very strong judging CV without a speaking CV. If you want to be a wise debater and you want to survive debate in the long term, you must build a balance of both. Practice both your adjudication and your speaking at the same time. So don't spend the whole year just judging. Speak, but speak at the right tournament. Don't speak at those funny. Anyway, I've abused Uganda enough, but Ugandan tournaments are funny. You guys, you don't host any opens. All I hear is, I don't know, reproductive health tournament, Olympic tournament. All your tournaments are based on themes. And I'm even wondering, how do you grow debate speaking? You think when you write on your CV, I won the Uganda sexual rights and reproductive health tournament, you think anybody takes you seriously? Nobody. Nobody actually takes you seriously. You need to win the right tournaments, participate in the right tournaments, build a culture of debate in your country. This thing of doing, I don't know, these tournaments of funny sponsorships so that you get some money and you're paid allowances for transport. You think anyone takes those things seriously? They don't. And you speak and judge the right tournaments. Build a culture of open tournaments. Build a culture of competitive tournaments. This thing of sponsored events that you came and won the Uganda human rights debate, I don't know what. You people are very funny people. Like, no one is going to ever take you seriously with such things in your CVs. Yes, thank you. Water Week, green energy debate. I don't know. Those are the tournaments you're coming to put in your CVs for WSDC. I was an adjudicator in the schools, green schools finals. My guys. Hey, Uganda. Uganda is a is a funny place. I was a judge in the Human Rights Challenge weekend, Water Week debate, agroforestry championships. My God, ladies and gentlemen, if those are the things on your CV, at best you're a local man. You're never leaving the hood. But if you want to leave the hood, if your plan is to become globally renowned, debaters and globally renowned judges. Make sure you are in the right spaces. This looks like Olympia is a good tournament. Build more like that. EAUDC, PAUDC, proper tournament. Use have a proper CV. Let your CV read tournaments that actually mean something. Me, I've done all these funny debates. I'm a champion of insurance debate. I'm a champion of I don't know, human rights challenge. I even one called arms control. I won one called arms control, where we talk about guns, and I've won all of them, and I can tell you for free, none of them are helping your CV. None of them, none of them is building your CV. None of them is helping you. Yes, that's the other one. You have interfaculty debates. I don't know. You judged your interfaculty debate, so now we must accept you for PAUDC. Yeah, that is nonsense. Yeah, please. Can we please be delivered from the spirit of smallness? Like, escape the hood, guys. Escape the hood. Go and actually judge real tournaments and speak at real tournaments. Build real tournaments in Uganda. Build real competitive, open competitions that are not sponsored, and therefore I don't have to talk about, I don't know, reproductive rights for 7 rounds. Please be delivered from that spirit of smallness. That's the only way you'll escape the hood. Please make sure you judge the right tournament and you build big tournaments around Uganda. Build big tournaments around Uganda. But Pans was in Uganda in December. I looked at that thing and I was I was like, what a missed opportunity. What a missed opportunity. Very few Ugandan teams, even fewer Ugandan judges. I was like, what's going on? This thing is right at your doorstep, but you're still waiting for, I don't know, Water Week. That's the one. Or UNSA, so that they pay you, I don't know, 100,000 Ugandan shillings and you feel, yeah, I've judged something. But when Pans is here, you don't want. When Pans is here, you don't want. And then UNSA is calling judges, 100,000 of you want to go there, or 5,000 of you want to go and judge there because they are paying you. Smallness, a very, maybe delivered from that thing. So please, if you want to judge WSDC 2026, build a strong CV. You have 1 year to do it. And then after that, you will find yourself in those. Yeah, I like what James said. Go and judge Josie Rumble. Ask James. You see, if you told people you broke at Josie Rumble, we take you seriously. At that point, we take you very seriously. We now know you're not a local man. You're actually an adjudicator with a strong CV. So escape the matrix, escape your hood. Please make sure you judge the right tournament. EAUDC is coming in August in Zanzibar. Save by August, you should be in Zanzibar. Make sure you are there so that you grow your CV in the right way, the right tournaments. Olympia was there, you should have judged. EA Mashuja is always in Nairobi. Go judge, find opportunities for you to go and yes, Tanzania WSDC. Nairobi has a tournament every other weekend for WSDC. Go and judge real tournaments, right? And then those things will help you with your CVs. So if you want to judge WSDC 2026, your CV is the only thing. You're competing with everyone from around the world. Just because you're in Uganda does not mean you'll be treated with special treatment. No. The IA budget is fixed and it will only be given to people who have deserved it. So that completes my monologue to you about how to become a global adjudicator and how to make sure that you get into the right opportunities. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? I'm sorry if I was a bit harsh. Sorry. Or have I scared you guys? No, guys, I'm a nice person. I was just trying to tell you the truth. I'm just trying to tell you the truth, guys.
Sure. Uh, Thanks for that delivery, though. So my question is, usually when I try judging, I have a conflict of prioritizing one of these two approaches. Judging by the motion in terms of the relevance that teams are able to prove as fulfilling the burden on the by the motion, or judging by engagement. I think the usual conflict for me when it comes to judging towards engagement is that I don't want to intervene with where teams do not directly engage. So I usually refer myself to just ask who proves the motion better for me. So which one do you think is like the best thing to prioritize in terms of proving relevance of a team?
So now you've asked me a technical question. I had not spoken about technical stuff, but I'll answer you. I've come to learn that debate is about judging what happens in the room, not what you thought the debate was about. Sometimes that means that you prioritize what the teams prioritize. Unless there is like a specific, let me give an example. There could be specific rules that force you to rely on the motion, and there could be specific rules that force you to get judged by engagement. Let me give an example. If you look at the BP manual, it says something like, in a regrets motion, proposition teams cannot win by proving that the thing we are regretting is bad. They need to prove that the counterfactual would have been better. Now, in such a case, even if, let's say, proposition wins on engagement and has the outrightly better delivery of arguments and is most relevant, by failing to prove that the counterfactual would have been better, they can't win the debate. So even if by engagement they maybe did extremely well, by virtue of certain rules that exist in debate, you cannot give them the win over the other side because there's a certain foundational burden that they didn't meet on the motion that exists in the manual. You need to study the world's manual to understand these rules, because then it becomes case specific. In instances where the motion doesn't have certain rules, how do you then determine the team that wins? There are laws, for example, based on how much time or what do the teams agree were the most important issues. If the team won the most important issues or the most important issue based on the agreement of the teams and based on the engagement of the debate, then obviously the team that won the most important issues therefore wins over the other. That's another way you can look at it and say, oh, in some cases, you judge based on engagement, not based on the motion. Maybe even the motion had created a more important issue, but the teams agreed on other issues that were more important. Then you judge the debate that happens. The only thing I say is you always prioritize the debate that happened and then understand the manual very well, both for WSDC and BP, for you to know when is this, how do you balance the requirements of judging in this specific instance. Sometimes you need to follow rules, sometimes you just need to follow the way the debate flowed. And each of those is like a split second judgment you make as an adjudicator. And it's something that you train and get experience on that allows you to do that. So there's no answer in terms of this is the right way, this is the wrong way. It applies on a case by case basis, and each of them is influenced by your knowledge of the manual. The more you know the manuals, the better it is for you to make such decisions. I hope I've answered that question.
Yeah, thanks very much. I have one last weird question, right? So
Mhm.
Your technical question. Let us first ask that less technical question. Okay. Okay, so
okay,
mine is just about the idea on perception during tournaments and judging. For example, I would say in Uganda, in as much as it is true that there can be like scandalous judges and instances of biases, you'd have instances or situations where you have entitled speakers, you have entitled patrons. And with like European tournaments, outside tournaments, it's quite easier because I've had instances, for instance, in it was a recent online WSDC tournament. It was Asian. Those kids complained because I appeared in their room, I think, about twice. CAP's response was to make me chair in the room because their complaint was not valid. However, in Uganda, also especially because of like poor org teams, it ends up in complaints, it ends up in quarrels. And I want to know if my resort solution is like one you would agree with as something like you'd encourage anyone to do. What I normally do is that I choose to clash the school and not judge them. Meaning, even if let me say the judge allocation has me in a power room and they were in that good room, I would opt to go down and judge like what most people would perceive as a bin room or a bubble, as opposed to judge these kids. And then most probably they would approach you and say the entire tournament, you didn't judge us, you didn't do this and this. And yet it's out of the idea that you want to avoid yourself being within issues or scandals where you constantly have to justify a call. Sometimes students understand the justification. A patron just genuinely feels like, no, they shouldn't be there. I mean, they shouldn't have lost the round. And I want to understand, is it okay to just remove yourself from such instances and choose to like clash? Because that's my resolution. I either don't judge the tournament, like I don't really judge most of the Ugandan tournaments to avoid that. The last time I did again, such an incident came up. Like there is a breed of
Okay,
what
I've
I would
understood
call
your question.
entitlement. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you don't fight entitlement with more entitlement. That's just the only response I'll give. But I understand you in terms of what it can do to your reputation and your mental health. And this is what I was trying to tell you guys. I just didn't want to say it. Is that I think the way the culture of debate has been built it's extremely wrong. Because the amount of mistrust, the amount of extreme like conflict that happens in Ugandan debate is something that I have never seen anywhere else. Honestly, I'm not saying that other spaces are better. I'm just saying in Uganda the mistrust is too high and the amount of conflict is also too high. And I think it's not your problem. I think it's a historical problem that certain people have done certain things that has created a common mistrust among patrons, judges, and everything. So what do? My advice in such situations is you guys, and I think it's good I'm talking to all of you generally have to just shift the culture. You have to shift the culture in the sense that org teams have to protect judges. Judges have to protect org teams by making sure that they're competent. And then you need to ensure that collectively you ensure that a culture of trust is rebuilt in the community. When you clash a team and say, I'll not judge you because I'm afraid of what's going to happen, what's going to happen is that you've built a culture where everyone who feels uncomfortable around certain teams wants to clash them. In fact, if there is anything that is as misused in this country and this region, it's something called clashes. Do you guys know what clashes mean? Clashes are only supposed to be used when a couple of things have happened. One, there is a history of conflict between you and this person. Therefore, you can no longer be objective. So if you just don't feel or they complained about your call, that is not. Conflict is like verbal spats, physical fights. Those are the things you conflict. Two, you have relationships with them. Or three, you have a financial obligation to them. Meaning if you're a coach or you've trained these kids before or they've paid you for something, those usually are the grounds for clashes. Not I don't like, I mistrust or anything like that. Now, when you clash a team like that, I want you to imagine what they do. They'll believe actually you don't like them, meaning that you'll actually be clashed from this team forever. Next time somebody else feels the same way, not you, they'll want to do the same thing. That generally destroys the culture of debate across the board. In fact, this culture of clashing, you guys need to rethink it. Clashes are only for extreme situations. Either you have a relationship with someone on that team, they pay you, you fought with one of them, or there's just a general problem that is beyond repair. Not that I don't like, or they argued with me, or they don't like me, or they didn't like my call, or what. You understand my problem? Now, the question of entitled speakers is even worse. How can high school speakers be entitled? Who is in charge? You people. Anyway, let me keep quiet. The point is, you guys there has to be a whole, like you guys should call yourself to a small meeting and ask yourself, what is wrong with our debate culture and how do we fix it? I've seen it as well. High school kids are very entitled, very, but the only way you're able to to beat that thing is to ensure that you have integrity on your side, and more importantly, they must fit into your system, not you fit into theirs. So there's that cultural shift that needs to happen. And I think the answer is just you can't fight entitlement with entitlement. Honestly, you're there to judge and to do your job. Even if they don't like you, even if they fight you, your job is to be as objective as possible to the round. And unless there's a general real grounds for a clash, Just don't judge them. They won't like your call. They might win and love you all of a sudden. Then they'll lose the next one and they'll hate you. Doesn't really matter. Your job is to do your job, which is to judge, give the right call, be the best version of yourself. And then after that, whatever happens after that is beyond your control. So my response to you is don't fight entitlement with more entitlement. Just do your jobs. Do your jobs and stand above the culture of debate and reshape what it is. Because the culture of mistrust and conflict is too high. It's too high in Uganda. Me, I've seen it. If there's anything I'm scared of, is Ugandan kids and patrons. Even when they come for my tournament, I'm always just crossing my fingers. I'm just like, oh, what conflict will come? But these days they are well behaved. I don't know why. When they come to Nairobi, they are good. And then when they come back to Uganda, they are bad. So anyway, I don't know. Any other questions? Rahim had another question we blocked.
I'm being entitled. No, my question though was about the average intelligent voter. I think there's a lot of like conflicts to what that really means, especially when it comes to debates that require what I would call like specialized analysis. You have a motion on a topic that is probably in medicine, and my assumption always is that this person is aware, but what they ought to value is the depth in which you go to probably prove that. So if I am judging around maybe on a very specific IR motion or a very specific industry motion concerning a specific industry, tech, AI, or the likes, to what extent am I supposed to value specialized analysis that is offered by teams?
That's another technical question. The manual speaks about this, and I think they say that as an average intelligent voter, the only information you're supposed to have is that which the common person would have, meaning that it's the information that is publicly accessible and is on the what is it called, like things that are, if it's IR, if it's about what's going on in Yemen, you can know that there's a conflict in Yemen between the Houthis and the other side, whatever it is. And those are things that are publicly accessible. So you should know such things. But something like the leader of the Houthis was killed in 2016 by a bomb blast, you get what I mean? That's specialized knowledge. So that specialized knowledge is not something you can buy unless the speaker explains and proves. But this general knowledge, like, oh, there's a conflict in Yemen going on, or like in Sudan, there's a conflict between the RSF and the army, and the RSF is headed by Dagalo, and the army is headed by Al Burhan, and the conflict was caused by a disagreement in the military. That's what an average intelligent voter should know. As to what else happens after that, those sort of things then become specialized, and speakers have the responsibility to justify the truth value of what they're saying beyond that point. So there's a distinction between what the average voter knows and what is considered specialized knowledge. When it's average intelligent voter knowledge, it's that which could be accessed on the front. In fact, the rule is what is on the front lines of major headlines. So if I open CNN and I type Sudan, what would be on those headlines? If I get like those headlines, that would be what is expected the average intelligent voter to know. Everything else is considered specialized. So what you usually use to judge is just the surface level is average intelligent. Once it starts becoming technical, that now is specialized, and the speaker has a higher burden of proof in that instance. It doesn't mean you can't buy it. It just means you can't believe it unless it's proven with proper analysis and logic. Have I answered your question?
Yes, thank you very much. The reason I ask this question is that when you look at like how people from the international scale of competition prep, like they really have super sophisticated case files, and it would seem uncharitable for me to just dismiss a characterization because it was super specialized. But I get that notion now. Thanks very
But you
much.
see also the standard of average intelligent voter might be different based on location. Maybe in Africa, because we know very little, what is considered average intelligent might be, me, I judge internationally. what judges they're considered average intelligent is a lot higher because information or those guys read a lot more. So what you find is that when you're talking about conflicts like in Ukraine, the standard as to what is average intelligent voter knowledge is a lot higher than what we consider it because of maybe access or proximity to knowledge. But in the same way, when they're debating Africa, for them, what they consider average intelligent knowledge is a very shallow place. But for us, because we are proximate to these things, we what we consider average intelligence might be a lot, the standard or the information might be slightly higher. So it's really about proximity to knowledge. So their statistics are very sophisticated, yes, but if you listen to them debate, they actually break it down very slowly. They start from what you know as an average intelligent voter, then they take you down a process to get you to the specialized knowledge. They're actually very good at breaking down technical information. The problem with Africans is because I'm a lawyer and I'm speaking about law, I have to assume that the entire room knows my legal background. You know, as that Ugandan MP likes to say, lesipsa lokita. So now you assume the whole room knows what lesipsa lokita means. So as Africans, we have that problem where we assume because we have specialized knowledge, everyone around us is aware of it. But from if you listen to national debates, they actually take you to a process that allows you to reach the conclusion that you would believe reasonably that this specialized knowledge they're presenting is true because they've broken it down into small bits and they've taken you through a process of proving those small bits. So that's the difference. I hope I've answered that question.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Any other questions? Eh,
Question when
yeah.
how do you how do you find these tournaments? But also too, how do you
How do
know
you
which
find it?
tournaments to do and which tournament not to do?
So, okay, let me give you a link. I'm going to paste a link on the chat, and I want us to actually go through this process together so that you see how I would think through this process. So, I'm posting something in the chat. It's a link to like global debate opportunities and stuff like that. So, I've posted it. Yeah. Click that link, visit that site, and then open it. Then there's the BP section and there's the school section. The BP section is the one labeled 2025. You can see the tournaments that are labeled 2025. Go to schools. There's a section there called schools. Now, these are the availabilities of school tournaments that are currently available. Now, you look at these tournaments and you ask yourself, which are the tournaments that are likely going to have top international WSDC teams. So, like for example, this weekend, the one that just passed, there was Taiwan WSDC from 31st to 1st June. That would have been a good tournament to judge. Now you look at this weekend. This weekend, there is two major tournaments. There's South Asian Schools Debate Championships, and then there's Vancouver pre-WSDC, and there's also Helsinki Schools. Now, here it's really about your level. If you're looking for an entry level tournament, you go to Helsinki. If you're looking for the competitive ones, you go to South Asia or Vancouver. That allows you to then judge the right tournament with the right competitive teams and you get the right exposure. If you go to next weekend, then next weekend would be the weekend with 14th to 15th June. There's Seasons Pre WSDC and there's Fistal Cup, right? An Asian Schools Debate Championship, but that one is in person. So you go to either Seasons or Fistal. Then you go to the next, like every weekend, they've highlighted for you which tournaments are likely to be major. They've color coded them for you. Please ensure that you get the right tournaments from these sheets and you sign up for them. In the beginning, they might not offer you opportunities unless you're free. But as you build a CV, you can start then requesting remuneration, compensate, or to the size or to the scale of your CV. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
There's ASDC Gyms, that's the one in Thailand, but there's also another one in Hanoi, Vietnam, that is being hosted in mid-June. So there are two. There's AODC and AWSDC. AODC is the one in Hanoi. AWSDC is the one in Bangkok. Any other questions? So that's how you get the right opportunities. James, Asians have too many tournaments. You can't even compete with them. Any other questions? Any other questions? Mm, no, no, they don't. Because WSDC, if you pay attention, they have a maximum number of judges they can have per room, which is between 3 to 5. So what they try and do is reduce the number of overall judges they have. And because every team is bringing a judge, remember you might have 60 teams, each bringing one judge, and 2 judges will judge. So you already have 60 judges. And then remember there are 60 teams, so there are only 30 rooms. So if there are 30 rooms and you only want 3 judges per room, that means you already only have limit for 90. Say you even add what is it called? You add 30 IAs, you've already reached the 90 judges threshold. Now, remember, there are teams like Team China, Team England that bring you 3 to 4 judges. So it means that even the number of team judges might be higher than 60. So, meaning that the scope of trainee judges is very low. WSDC is not a tournament that is like, oh, I want to learn how to judge. Can I come judge? That is something you do with your local tournaments. WSDC, in its main competition, is too competitive for them to have the scope of trainee judges. That judge pool is very In fact, sometimes if you if you remember Serbia, some judges were being sat out in certain rounds because they had panels of 5 and there were about 68 teams. So 68 teams is about 34 rooms. So they had 5 judges times 34. 34 rooms, each had 5 judges. That means they had 170 judges already, and they were sitting others out, meaning that there were more than 170 judges at that competition. So imagine there are 170 plus top judges, and then you are a trainee and you want to go learn at WSDC. No, they don't allow it. You have to, by the time you're going to WSDC, you have to have a proper TV. That pool is too competitive. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I don't know whether this falls into the paradigm of the discussion, but I wanted to ask, what do you think are like, okay, what are the biggest considerations within like breaking judges at major tournaments like WSDC, for instance, and what do you think one can do beyond just the type of feedback you're giving and the like for breaking at Worlds?
Worlds is a purely technical break. It's mostly feedback, but then they'll also look at like regional representation or representation. So what they'll do is that they want to make sure that the judge break reflects all the regions of the world. So it's purely feedback, but even within your regions, they are breaking you based on the what is it called? On the feedback you received. So they'll say, okay, Africa, we had 12 judges. We need to break 5. How do we decide the 5? They look at the feedback. So WSDC is mostly technically on feedback and how good you are. Remember, in WSDC, you have to submit feedback for all the judges who judge you. So in WSDC, teams must submit feedback for both the chair and the panelists. So it will purely be based a lot on the feedback you received. Those are the main metrics. Any other question? Okay, I don't think there are any more.
Okay, there being no further questions, I would like to thank Macharia for making time in your schedule to come and speak to us. Thank you guys for attending. And I had a question that you already answered. I really want us to be the kinds of individuals that are going to solve the problems that Uganda has and change the whole perspective that the whole world has upon our judges and our debaters and our patrons. I think that it must start with us because we have got what people outside there, people with within these circuits have already told us what we are facing and the problems we are having. Thank you, Macharia, for helping us notice everything that is talked about us. And I think from everyone who's here, most of them I see are already going to BCS in a short time. So I think we are going to implement whatever you have taught us, and we really appreciate everything that you have given us. And with that, I think the session comes to an end.
Thank you so much, everyone, and bye bye. Keep doing what you're doing. You're the change of Uganda. I believe that. Thank you so much, DIA, and goodbye.